Thank you. Thank you so much. Honestly, it's the biggest pleasure to go around the United Kingdom, the local residents, the whole country to meet the food. And honestly, I'll give you this for free. Regardless of what my responses by the police will prevent, I will continue to go around the United Kingdom to prevent hotels like this. Because to be honest with you, the younger generation is in a bit of a state. I think that's pretty obvious, because they come from ivory towers that do not see the issue of mass immigration. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will always be here to represent the young generation against the illegal migration. So, let's quickly just go through the events that happened yesterday morning. They very intentionally decided to put the men into these hotels in the very cusp of the morning to make sure that independent journalists wouldn't see the mass amounts of men coming into this hotel here. Who here reviewed the footage and how many men compared to women and children who were genuine asylum applicants were actually in the coaches which took them to these hotels? I see more women here than any asylum hotel that I've been across the United Kingdom. Because right now, in areas like this, hotels are now being transitioned into air-only accommodation. So it seems very obvious that the people that we're taking in as a violation is predominantly composed of male economic migrants who traditionally go back to America from holidays. We will see that the liberal economies which fund these people that they then sent back to the families that close. I've got a question for the men here. If they were fleeing from persecution and they only had £5,000, who would they send, the women or the children or themselves? Of course, because the British democracy that we live in has an understanding that they firstly value the women and the children of this United Kingdom. And right now, massively importing men, sexually frustrated men who don't speak English, who can't observe British values, will cost the expenditure of women and children. What this protest is right now is to prevent what's happened at the migrant hotels in Portsmouth, in Epping, in Norfolk, in which vulnerable women during traditionally summer times were sexually exploited by people who we don't know their language, we don't know where they come from, and because of that, and because of the complicit Labour government which is incompetent in getting the people that they favor, the British public are currently under attack by foreign invaders. Now a very simple solution to this, my friends, is for councils to have the devolved the power to cut down the Westminster contracts that currently house these hotels. Quick fact for you, no council in this United Kingdom currently has the authority to get rid of the contracts set by Westminster. Why is it that Westminster counties that have no local information about the area are the ones that dictate policy to local communities? It is the biggest injustice of power ever since the government has gotten into power. Why is it that Keir Starmer can decide to send illegal invaders into local urban areas? It is because it doesn't affect us upper class cronies. It will affect people like you, British working patriots. So what I call for is for the British public to vote in a political party that will actually focus on illegal migration and councils that will reject these contracts.
Have a fine Christmas,
Now, a quick statistic for you, 78% of Somalians claim housing benefits. 86% of migrants that come here via work visa are net receivers and not net givers. The sole lie that migration somehow has an economic benefit is the biggest sham and propaganda I've ever seen in my life. These individuals, and think about it for a moment, back in the day, you had polygamy positions that were actually full-time. Now thanks to people taking advantage of stolen accounts on sites like Britannia and Justin, that position, which used to be a full-time position that people could take advantage of, is now devalued to freelance work. What migration does, ladies and gentlemen, is that it sends working class people to work in freelance positions. Because their work transitions to repay the migrants as low as possible. So what I call them is the boycotting of companies which are the geniuses of this world which are sold out for 30 pieces of silver. Because there is no reason why Britannia Hotel and the Thistle take government contracts to house these people. It is simply a buyout because these hotels are currently failing. So firstly, we need to boycott Britannia Hotel and Thistle, which currently around London are accepting contracts to house these illegal economic migrants. Secondly, we need to boycott private companies which are hired to handle these illegal invaders. And thirdly, and maybe this will help with your health, ladies and gentlemen, boycott Deliveroo and Just Eat, because it seems very clear to me that they take advantage of the legal workers. Brilliant, that's an absolutely fair point. Look, the people taking advantage of the system are never to blame. If you give people a hotel, an iPhone, a TV, wouldn't you take it? If I invited you to a free house with free money, with free luxury goods, wouldn't you take it? And a cost of living crisis. So who's to blame, ladies and gentlemen? It's not the French, because we were the ones that gave them £5 billion. It's not the migrants because they're clearly allowed in, it's the Labour government. It was the Conservative government which oversaw assimilation. It was the people that enabled the people to get here in the first place that we should be blaming. It's not the messenger which we blame, which in this case are the migrants. It's the one that sent the message that the UK is open to take advantage of. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a residential area just behind the Britannia Hotel, and thanks to that, and let's have back the saying that it takes a community to raise a child. Now what type of community will be now full thanks to these undocumented gentlemen wandering the streets on a weekday? It is a summer term. Children are out, sometimes without their parents because they're working. What are they going to think when you have illegal undocumented men staring at their children in the parks? It is the biggest fear of safety this United Kingdom can face. Men who don't value children or women staring at a weekday because they have nothing to do and sexually frustrated, and is taking the vulnerable in society and housing the people that will take advantage of that fact. I've been around the United Kingdom. Keir Starmer and his cronies have intentionally housed these economic migrants in areas full of veterans if you take Aldershot, full of families if you take Epping, and right now in Canary Wharf, which has a community, as you can see, with very lovely women that actually care about their community. Because I'll give you this for free. I think the Labour government has underestimated the British community and what they can do. Because right now across the United Kingdom, we have 33 protests ongoing for the last week, currently protesting as a legal invaders. We have never seen a sense of community when the British public is at threat. Look at World War I and II. It is always called an emergency community in order to have this sense of party aesthetic. And I'll tell you this, compared to stand up to racism, which hates and is annoyed and are childish, compare that to this lovely community here, which will love one another, that will talk to one another, which will invite people like me to speak, and it's an absolute privilege. You can typically look at who's right when you look at the emotional competency of the people that we're talking to. And right now, what I see are strong, commendable heroes of this United Kingdom, which are currently standing up for injustice and our women and children. I would recommend that, thank you. I think I'll backwards the question very easily. But look, I started out my political and religious activism at a little place called Hyde Park. I came to a street migration conclusion during my time at school when I found that people of a certain culture and religion couldn't properly integrate. The failed project of multiculturalism teaches that there is cultural abuse and ideology of group of people which don't value multicultural people. Now, an interesting move in terms of migration policy is that Keir Starmer is now, instead of moving these people to original army boats because for whatever reason the migrants are having a fuss that the same institutions that are housing and anti-doctors aren't good enough for migrants. So they're starting at boats, they're moving to hotels, and now they're moving to apartments. I was there in the Waterloo campaign where very recently they were moving and moving invaders to renovated apartments. Currently, the Labour government are buying 5-year contracts to landlords to private properties to house the illegal invaders of this United Kingdom. Now, I've got a question for everyone here. Would you like affordable properties right now in the black housing crisis? Of course. In fact, Keir Starmer was interviewed by the BBC and they asked why he was prioritising illegal invaders into private properties during a housing crisis. He rejected the concept that a housing crisis ever existed. So, firstly, Keir Starmer has such a stick up the arse, he didn't actually understand the issues of the working class. Secondly, he prioritises people who can't even vote. And thirdly, for whatever reason, our original policy of sending these people to army barracks weren't good enough for people who are supposedly doing persecution. It's absolutely nonsensical to me that the Keir Starmer government somehow wants to pander to people who are fleeing persecution supposedly, that are predominantly men, and for whatever reason they now have to violate apartments for 5 years. Now, anecdotally, as I said, at my time in Hyde Park, I saw that a growing religion and culture personally is failed to integrate into the United Kingdom. It doesn't work. In order to integrate, you must change and boil down to a British identity. And unfortunately, when you have people who don't speak English, you unfortunately can't integrate into being British. It should be a basic requirement if you want to come into the United Kingdom that firstly you give it to the system and secondly you speak English. It should be a basic requirement that you concern yourself with the safety of young British women and children. That should be a basic requirement for migration. It should be a basic requirement that we understand British values and how we understand freedom of speech and freedom of democracy. Because these people to countries that firstly practice extreme modesty, that firstly don't respect freedom of speech laws, and thirdly, see women and children as unequal. These countries generally live in dictatorship. These countries that they're coming from generally practice extreme modesty, and it's not compatible with the West. A melting pot is where the people that come into the United Kingdom assimilate into a British identity. They clothe themselves into a British flag when it means to be British. And right now, when you live in an ivory tower, when you don't speak English, when everything is given to you without any work, you don't understand what it means to be British. And right now, Britishness is being censored by the same British government that pandering to foreigners. For example, on the 21st of July, I attended a protest in this, in which a hotel, which were actually housing valid asylum applicants from women and children, were being transitioned into male-only accommodation. Now, in response to this, and in response to the case of a migrant having basically raped a little girl, a journalist from the James Harvey called this intervention for the post. Now he's facing potentially 2 years in prison for inciting racial hatred, comparing the migrant which take advantage of vulnerable women as crime both. It is absolutely the persecution of the British state to persecute independent journalists for calling out this nonsense. But I tell you this, people, regardless of what other people and what they happen to them, is what happens to me currently. I have reports by professional radicalisation. I will continue on being the activist for local communities when it comes to illegal employment. I just want to quickly praise your time of the women. I saw everything. I saw all the American protests that women are now being trained as the activists towards their local communities. It seems like the lovely nature that all of these lovely women possess is now being utilised into political activism. And I'm fully behind the women to be the local activists of your communities, because you're the ones that can take advantage of when economic migrants traditionally coming into these communities. So I want to thank all the women here and everyone who marched making up this today, and it's an absolute pleasure. Because to be honest with you, right now the political class, the controlled and fully aged men, they don't give a crap about you, so absolutely fight and fight their fighting. But I believe that sentiment needs to be continued. The members of the political class, the charlatans of this world, later down the 2029 general election, will try to sell to you their votes based on the promise that they will get migration down. And we need to be heavily sceptical of parties which can promise things that can't be given. For example, right now, there's no way for councils to actually get rid of the boycotts given by Westminster. They could certainly pressure the local police to do so, but it's an impossibility by most councils to remove the contracts given by Westminster. So, we need to do it with a deal power for these councils to do so, and we need to be incredibly wary of politicians who promise that they can do so. Because right now, this issue is in this country. Right now, it's the summer that activism has become popular. And if we can continue this momentum outside of the summertime, we will see a great calling on the political class to actually do something. And it's an absolute pleasure. I can only say that for you. people in there will understand what we're saying. But look, although Keir Starmer is a very intimate figure, it's not just this Labour government which was complicit in the mass invasion of the United Kingdom. The Conservative government, according to Emmanuel Macron, never discussed in their Brexit agreement a migration policy that would be identical to that of the Dublin trade agreement. So, really to blame all of the establishment of that the Conservative or the Labour governments in doing what we're currently seeing today. That being a migration class taking advantage of 4-star hotels by chains that are receiving buyouts by the British government. Right now, I'll tell you this with me. The Britannia Hotel, besides from that of Canary Wharf, all of their other chains provide mediocre hotels. And the reason why they're accepting the contract, by the way, we don't know the full ins and outs of the contracts that Westminster are providing to these hotels. So I would call upon these governments to release the contracts that they're giving and how much money they are giving to these hotels and to how many hotels within their chains that migrants are currently being housed in. Because right now, these hotels are receiving buyouts by the British government. Yeah, and we have no idea how many chains are currently housing these migrants because they rely, including the police. How many times our service will stand up to racism came here, they were shouting at British patriots like yourself that Nazis should throw themselves off rivers. They are accusing people who don't want unwitting migrants to come into their local communities of being potentially fascists and that you should kill yourself. So firstly, I've got a question. When the Britannians are just out into these local communities, how many economic migrants will they bring with them? Because if they could do full-time activism and they can afford the coaches, they can most certainly afford to house some economic migrants in their own houses. So how many Britannians which get bussed around this United Kingdom will they take out of the refuge of their own hearts? They won't take any, because they live in an ivory tower of liberal establishment politics and they don't care what happens to local residential communities. Please be quiet for about racism, that just being have an internet campaign to scare the people that you disagree with you, goes into complete contrast to the current communities being fostered by local residencies like this. All of you love one another, all of you care for one another, all of you will have communities with one another. But the power to stand up to racism, that like children like they are, who go around the United Kingdom, scream like children, actually take your existence for what you believe.